has been added. Please do confirm if you're able to solve it, performing the calculation on a new table, on a new column, and then copying the values to the student ID number. All right. So someone is saying his student ID number is negative. How? Is it the value or negative in the sense that you haven't done that? Thank you, Adele. Okay. Paul says he's done it. Okay, Zainab, thank you very much. Okay, Edward said he's done it. Yeah, I'm talking about the student IDs. If you're part of the last class, we sorted the data based on rank, and the student ID was not sorting along with the data. So we had to, I left it as a challenge. I left it as a challenge for you people. Okay. Okay, you tried and your student ID did not change. All right. So let me just, we don't have enough time, so let me just go and show you guys what I did. Let me share my screen with you people. Actually, it's very easy, so it's no big deal. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Excel, share. Please, Justice, please do verify. Can you see my screen, please? Justice.
Yeah, I can see your screen clearly.
Do verify, please.
You can go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. I can see your screen.
All right, amazing, amazing. So what I did was, for example, during our last class, what we did was we used a formula, right? We used a formula to generate this, right? We used a formula to generate this. So the mistake we made was the formula is in place, right? So after sorting the data, the row is giving us the row ID, right? The row index. So even if you sort the data, what is happening is it's going to sort it, but the formula we used is still giving us the row number, which is 1. No matter how whether you sort it in an ascending or descending order, it's going to be the same because we used the formula row, right? So the row is definitely going to be showing the same row index. So if be it, for example, okay, let me just sort it. Sort, yeah, from smallest to highest. Let me remove this. Sort using the student ID. Cell values, yeah, order is from A to Z. Okay. So as you can see, now the sorting is in order. It's starting from the first student down to the 24th student, right? So what was happening before is, so the row index actually gives us this number 1, right? Number 2, number 3. So if you perform the calculation here and the formulas are within the cells, what is going to happen is after sorting the data, the formula is still going to give 1. Why? Because we use the row index, right? So it's not going to be sorted. What I did was I came here, I performed the calculation using the same formula, and then I copied the values, and then I pasted it here as values. So this is how you can solve your sorting issues. So now if you go ahead and sort, for example, if I go to the sort, if I click on any cell and sort. So if I give my criteria as the rank, cell values, smallest to highest, if I click on OK, you see, if we zoom on the rank is from 1, right? So, and if you go back to the ID numbers are sorted as well, right? So this ID number actually belongs to Abraham Modube, right? So that is how you fix it. Just go to this side. I believe you guys all have the formulas that I used for the ID number generation. Just come to this cell, any cell away from the table, use the formula, then copy the values. Okay, Musa Rilwano. Okay, what is your question, Musa, please? Let me just address it as quickly as possible because we are moving to intermediate Excel class today. Musa, what is your question, please? Musa, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Good evening, sir. So yesterday I tried the method that he said concerning the student ID. So I tried the method and repeated the same. The student ID number was sticking to a particular student that's supposed to have that student ID. So it worked yesterday when I did it.
Okay, so meaning you're not having any issues, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. In that case, there's no point, right? So cool. So just follow the instructions that I told you guys to do. Just come and calculate the student ID number here, right? Then click on enter, press enter. If it's not calculated automatically for the column, just click on this, click this and drag, right? And it's gonna perform the calculation. After that, you just highlight, you right click, you copy, and then you come here, you select from here to here, you right click, and then you paste as values, and then you're done, right? So that's cool. With that out of the way, let's just go ahead and see our outline for today. Okay, let me just recap what I did because I had some students joining today. What we did last was we used this data. Before this number was having +234, so we formatted this number. If you want the formula, Justice, I don't know, maybe Justice, where you're dropping the formulas, maybe is it in a Telegram group or WhatsApp group? So we drop the formula. What you're going to do is we replace some null values, some empty values. There's a formula for that in the PDF. We formatted this number. There's a formula for that in the PDF. So, and then we splitted our names. Our name was first name, last name, and middle name in one row, but we splitted the names into first and last, ignoring the middle name. And then we calculated total score, we calculated average score, and we wrote some if statement. As you can see, we wrote these if statements. If the score is above 80, we write excellent. If the score is greater than or equal to 60, we write good.
Yeah, Mohammed, we can't hear you in case you are speaking. Kindly unmute your microphone, please.
Hello, Justice, can you hear me now? Hello, please indicate if you can hear me now. Hello. Hello, please indicate if you can hear me so that we continue.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Go ahead. I can hear you loud and clear. You can go ahead.
All right. So this is the outline for today. Today we're going to be having a project-based real-world Excel data analysis. So the goal for today is we will explore real-world Excel functionalities to solve common business problems. So I don't want a situation whereby I'll be teaching you guys just some formulas and then you have no idea where to use those formulas. So that's why I added some picks to the outline so that we're going to be solving a real-world data analysis problem. If you check our month 3, what we're supposed to have today is VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, pivot tables, and filtering, right? So I don't want to just go ahead and just show you a VLOOKUP, a HLOOKUP, a pivot table, and then filtering data and then call it data. No, what I want to do is I want to have a project-based approach, right? For example, we're going to be having some data sets to analyze using all these formulas, right? So pivot tables are what for data summarization and reporting. For example, if you want to have a quick analysis and then summary of your data, then pivot tables allows, in simple terms, pivot table allows you to do that. I know maybe you've covered that in your theory class. Pivot tables allows you to do that. Just a quick summary without writing any formulas, right? And we're going to be covering slices and groups, which allows you to filter and organize your data dynamically. You can be clicking on slices and then groups, and it's going to be manipulating your data in real time. And we are going to be calculating a year-over-year analysis, track business performance annually, and then we're going to be using calculated columns to drive new insights from our existing data, right? So I'm going to be dropping the data sets with you. So Justice, how do we do it? Do I share with you so that you can drop it with them, or can we just go ahead and?
Okay, yeah, just share. Let me drop it with them so they can follow.
All right, let me just drop it right away. So if you're willing to follow along, I'm going to provide the data set to you people. Let me just drop it on WhatsApp as quickly as possible so that you copy and drop it. I'm going to be dropping the class 3 outline as well, in case if you want to go through it, maybe you're coming in late to this class. So I've dropped the data set with you, Justice. You can go ahead and share it with them. So meanwhile, you can go ahead and download the data sets before I go over the outline. So what we're going to be covering today is employee and salary data, right? I have an employee and salary data which belongs to a company. So we're going to be using VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, right? So for example, whenever you're about to analyze the data, you're definitely getting maybe a scenario, maybe from your manager or from your boss or from a company, or maybe a consultancy company, and people come to you with their business problems and data, and then you collect and analyze it for them. So for example, the types of questions I receive during my daily life is, for example, a company needs to manage employee records and payroll efficiently. So they have two tables, right? For example, they're going to give you an employee table containing what? Employee IDs, employee name, and then department of that employee. And then maybe another table, a salary table containing the employee ID and their salary, right? So questions you might get is, as a beginner data analyst, is to find the salary for each employee using their employee ID, right? Questions like find the department of an employee, maybe given their ID, or determine if an employee exists in the database. So then we're going to be maybe compare VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP for retrieving salaries, right? So VLOOKUP used to exist in Excel for a very long time, but XLOOKUP is another advanced lookup function introduced in 2019. So I don't think most of the Excels have it. If your Excel is maybe from 2020 and above, or if you're using Excel 360, Microsoft 360 or something like that, then you're going to have XLOOKUP. And then maybe use calculated columns to determine annual salary. So though they're not going to be telling you to use calculated column to determine annual salary, they're just going to tell you, please help them determine the annual salary of the employees, right? Maybe you're working in a company as an analyst. These are the types of questions that you're going to be getting from your managers, right? So secondly, for example, we have a quarter sales data where we're going to be using HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP basically means horizontal lookup. We're going to be covering that. And for example, a sales manager wants to compare quarterly sales across different years, right? So you're going to be getting questions like find sales from a specific quarter, but they're not going to be telling you using HLOOKUP, that's your job. Compare quarter one sales with quarter four to check seasonal trends and determine which quarter had the highest revenue. And thirdly, we're going to be diving deep into pivot tables. So if time permits, a real world scenario for pivot tables is, for example, as a business performance analyst, for example, a business analyst wants to analyze regional sales performance and track profit trends over time. So you're going to be getting questions like total sales per region. They want maybe total sales per each product, then maybe profit calculations, which is just sales minus cost. And then maybe they're going to be asking you monthly and yearly sales trends, and then year-over-year growth. So maybe a company wants to see its performance from previous year. Maybe are they making progress or not? Maybe they want to see top 3 best-selling products in their company, and then maybe use slicers, maybe add slicers to their data so that they can be filtering by region and products to dynamically conduct analysis. And then maybe they would like you to group sales by months and year, right? For example, they might ask you, we want to see what products is performing best in the year 2023, maybe June, right? So that's when you group sales by month and year, right? So after this class, I'm going to be giving you guys a little challenge. You're going to be using VLOOKUP to find employee salary. Use XLOOKUP to check if an employee exists. So if you don't have VLOOKUP, don't worry, you can use, if you don't have XLOOKUP, you can as well use VLOOKUP to find the employee salary. Create a pivot table to find sales by product, find the top selling products using pivot tables. So we're going to be using slicers. So I expect you to use slicers to filter sales by region, calculate year-over-year growth for each year in sales, and then find the profit per region using calculated columns, right? And then maybe group sales by month and by year for trend analysis. So if time permits, this is what we're going to be covering today. And so without any further delay, let's just dive in. So let me go ahead and share my Excel screen with you guys. Where's my Excel? Yeah, let me go ahead and share my Excel screen. So please just verify if you can see my Excel screen.
Not yet, not yet. Okay, I can see now.
All right, it's loading. Yeah, it's a little bit, there's lag. So you can just click on file and then what? And then open a new. Let's go ahead and open, as we covered in our first class, if you just go ahead to the file, to the backstage view, click on new, and then select a new workbook. We're going to be using a blank workbook for this. So let me just go ahead and close the other workbooks. Save. Somebody is saying they can't see. Yeah, sorry, that's because I'm closing some windows. I don't want Excel to be slow. Don't worry, I'm going to be sharing it in a minute, please. Cool. So let me just go ahead and share my screen again. Please do verify if you can see my blank Excel screen.
Very visible.
Yeah, all right. So if you please, have you shared the data set with them?
Yeah, they already have that.
All right. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going. Okay, let me just share my. Okay. I don't want to be sharing the entire window because it's going to be laggy. So if you have access to the PDF that I shared with you guys, you can just go ahead and look at the outline for today. So if you take a look at the first one, is saying we're going to be analyzing the employee and salary data, right? So please just go ahead and open the outline for today. What we're going to be doing is the first question in the outline says we have an employee table that contains employee details and a salary table. So let's go ahead and import that. What we do is there are many ways of importing data. So it's a CSV file. So for beginners, you can just double click on the data, but as an intermediate, you don't want to do that. You just want to go to your data and then maybe get external data, right? So we're going to be going to data and then maybe get external data, right? So we can get our data from other sources, right? We can get data from SQL, we can get data from XML, right? There are a lot of ways to get data, right? You can also get data from what? You can also get data from a file, for example, from a workbook, from CSV, from XML, from text data. You can also get data from what? From a database. For example, let's say you have a database that you've exported. You can as well get data from there. From Azure, you can, which is a cloud bucket from Microsoft, and then you can get it from online. So just go ahead and check all the possible listing. But we're going to be getting from a CSV file. So let's allow that to load. It's gonna open your computer for you. Sorry, it's gonna open your file manager. So the data I want to get is the employees data, right? Let me take a look at my outline. It says we have employee table and we have salary table. Cool. So if you take a look at this data, I don't know, maybe if you can see the file manager window. So let me just, I'm opening my downloads and then I'm just clicking on employee table, right? And then I'm clicking on import. So now Excel is processing the file. It's a CSV file. Beautiful. So now we have our data. Now we have our data. We have our employee AI tech employee table.csv. We have the list of employees. For example, if you take a look at it, we have employee ID, we have employee name, and then we have what we have department, right? So we're not going to be clicking on edit. This is going to be opening. For example, this edit, we're not going to be clicking on it. This is very advanced. This is going to open Power Query for advanced data editing and analysis. We're going to be covering that when we reach an advanced Excel analysis. So, but for now, we're just going to be loading. If you click on this load, it's just going to load the data to Excel workbook, right? So let's go ahead and click that. Beautiful. So this has loaded the table into our Excel worksheet or workbook or whatever you call it. So let's go through the data. The data is clean. There's no any null values. So first thing you have to do is to take a look at the columns, right? Before you perform your analysis. So we have employee ID, have employee name, and then we have department, right? So we can go ahead and close this. So as you can see, using this type of imports, the data has been already converted into a table, right? It's already in a table format. If you can see, we can be able to sort through it, filter through it, and do whatever that you want. It's already converted into a table. So if yours is not converted, even though if you imported it through this way, definitely it's going to be converted. But if you open the CSV directly, you can just click on any way in the cell and just press Ctrl-T. If you press Ctrl-T, it's going to convert your data to an Excel table, right? So now we can go ahead and rename this sheet to employees and press enter. So the business problem also states that this is a salary table containing the employee ID and their salary, right? So let's go ahead and import that as well. So let's go to this sheet. Let's go to data, right? Let's go to new query from file, from CSV, and click on it. So I'm going to go ahead. If you're seeing the window, it's cool. But if you're not seeing the window, it's fine. It's just opening my file manager, and it's giving me the choice to choose whatever file that I want. So I'm going to be choosing the salary, employee salary, and then I'm just going to be clicking on import. This is going to open this window again. So let's verify we have the employee ID, and then we have the salaries. So let's just go ahead and click on load. Beautiful. This has already loaded our data into Excel. So we can just go ahead and rename this sheet to employee salaries, right? So beautiful. Now we have the employees, which is this, and we have the what? We have the salaries. We have the employee ID here, and then we have the salaries here, right? So the business question is asking us to find the salary of each employee, right? Find the salary of each employee using their what? Using their employee ID, right? This is the first challenge that we're getting. So think about it. How do you find the salary of each employee using their what? Their employee ID. So this is the first challenge that we're going to be solving. So it's actually simple. We're going to be using the VLOOKUP, right? We're going to be using VLOOKUP. For example, let me just go ahead to Excel, then just click on this column, and then click on what? Salaries. Just create a new column called salaries, because they just want us to find the salaries in a separate sheet, and then the employees are on a separate sheet. So they just want you to find the salaries based on these employee IDs. So this is a very good problem for a VLOOKUP, for a vertical lookup. If you take a look, our tables are organized vertically. They are not organized horizontally like this. They are vertical. So VLOOKUP basically means vertical lookup, right? So we're going to be using VLOOKUP to do that. So how do we do that? So I told you in our previous classes that all Excel formulas begin with a what? Begin with equal. Right? They begin with what? Equal sign. So what do we do now? VLOOKUP. Let's go ahead and type VLOOKUP. So if you take a look at the documentation, it says, if you take a look at the documentation, I don't know if you guys are able to see it. It says looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table, and then returns a value in the same row from a column you specified. Looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table, and then what? Returns a value in the same row from a column you specify. By default, the table must be what? The documentation codes. So what does it do? It just looks for a value in your table in the leftmost column, right? So after writing your VLOOKUP, just open on open a parenthesis. So the first parameter that this function is expecting, obviously, it's the what is the lookup value. What value are you trying to look up? So they said we should find the salary based on the employee ID, right? So what do we do now? What do we do? So let's just go ahead and then click on the employee ID, like this employee ID, right? So and then what they're trying to say is where is this? Let's press comma. The table array is where is the table that you want to fetch the salaries from. So obviously it's inside our salary, right? So you just go ahead and click on employee salaries, right? Click on employee salaries, and then just select the just select the ID and the what and the salary, right? Very good. So we have the ID and the salary. Don't worry. Let's go back to the function. So we've selected the employee ID, which is this. We've selected the salary. We just clicked on employee salaries, and then we selected the table range. So the next parameter it is looking for is the what? Is the column index. Where is this value you're looking for located, right? Where is it located? So if you go back to let's just go back to the employee salary. If you come back to the employee salary, you see that this column index is 1, and then this column index is 2, right? 1, it's obvious now. The first one is 1, and then the second column is 2, right? So let's go back to the formula. I know it's messed up now. So let's just delete what we did. The column index is 2, right? Our salary lies in the second column, B, inside the what? Inside the employee salaries. So let's go back to the formula and delete what we did. Employee salaries, then the column is what? The second column. Then press on comma. So the third parameter it is expecting is approximate match or exact match, right? Do you want an exact match or an approximated match? Exact match, it's gonna match exactly the lookup value. So approximate match is gonna approximate it, right? Close to that value. Or do you want to return an exact match? So in our case, put true for approximate match and then put false for exact match. So, but we're going to be putting false, or you can as well go ahead and put 0, because in computing, we know that 0 is false and then 1 is true. So we're just going to, by convention as an analyst, you just use numbers. You just put 0. Or if you like, you can just go ahead and put false, right? But in our case, I'm going to just put 0 because I'm used to it. So after that, you go ahead and close your bracket and press enter. So you see, Excel automatically fetch the salary from this table using this ID, right? And then it populated the employee salaries with that. So let's verify. For example, employee 101 is Abiodun Adebayo with the employee ID 101. So if you go to the employees, the 101 is what? Is 50K. That's the salary per month. So, and if you come back to the employees, we can see that Abiodun's salary is what? 50K. That means our formula has worked well. So let's recap the formula again. We use what? We use VLOOKUP, the lookup value, right? Which is the employee ID, right? And then what next? is the table array. Table array basically means where is the table that you want to perform the lookup from. So in our case, we clicked on the employee salary and then we highlighted the table, the columns, right? We just clicked on A and then we dragged down to B. That's our range, right? And then what we did next is the column index. What value do you want to fetch? Okay, if it matches the lookup value, for example, in our case, the employee ID, okay, what value do we want to, where is the value that we want to fetch to, right? In our case is the what? Is if the employee ID match, we want to fetch the salaries, right? And the salaries is in which column? A is column 1, B is column 2. So we passed in the column. Let me zoom a little bit. If you take a look at it, VLOOKUP employee ID, right? Then employee salaries, and then the column. This is the column actually, right? This is the column, number 2. So, and then 0 means, do you want an exact match? 0 means, yes, I want an exact match. And then 1 means, I want an approximated match. So in our case, we want an exact match. So that is how we got it. It's actually simple. So if we go back to the outline, we have solved the first problem, right? It says, find the salary of each employee using the employee ID. So if you take a look at it, we have found the salary for each employee here. So we have already solved our first problem. So what is the second problem? Let's go ahead and check the outline. So in the outline, if you have access to it, just check the number 2 said, find the department of an employee given the ID. Don't worry if you don't understand the first example. We're going to be using it again and again and again until you get used to it. So the second challenge says, find the department of an employee given the ID. For example, now you have an ID of an employee and you want to find the department that the employee belongs to using their what? Using the ID. Okay, let's go ahead and solve that problem. So I can just come here and write an equal sign, right? So what do we do? Let's write our formula VLOOKUP. The lookup value is okay, we're going to be given the ID. Okay, let me have an ID. For example, my manager met me and then he is curious. He wants to know an employee's department using the ID. For example, this is Samuel Adewale. He belongs to the marketing department, right? And then his employee ID is 112. But let's say this is this is almost 1 million rows of data. It's so difficult to scroll. If you can see, this is just 50, so we can just scroll and find, right? Okay, imagine this is, let's say, for example, millions of employees or hundreds of thousands of employees. It's going to be so difficult for you to find it. You have to use a formula, right? Okay, so we know that 110 let's use the employee ID 110. Let's say my manager met me and then passed the employee ID 110 for me. Oh, sorry. VLOOKUP. The lookup value is what? 110, comma, right? Lookup value is what? 110. Very good. So where is the table array? Where is the table array? The table array is what? Is this, right? From this to what? From this to department. So you can just click on this range, right? From A to C, right? So, comma, what is the column index of the department? The column index of the department, let's count it. Column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. So by taking a look at this, the department lies in what? In column 3. So we can just go ahead and pass column 3, which is where the department lies, and then comma. So do we want an exact match? Sorry, my networks. I believe my network is a bit laggy. It's saying connecting for a minute. So let's go back to the challenge. And please, Justice, verify if you can hear my voice. Hello. Please do verify if you can hear me and see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen and we can hear you.
Please do verify if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you and I can see your screen.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's just do the analysis for like 20 minutes more, 30 minutes more, and then we can leave the rest for maybe Wednesday. Yeah, because I'm a bit sick. If you see from the energy is low, right? But let's do this. So we've solved the second issue. For example, now we know that if our manager gives us an ID, we can use VLOOKUP, right? So we just use the VLOOKUP once again. For example, let me just go ahead and if we take a look at this first employee, which is what? 101, the name is Abiodun Adebayo, and he belongs to the sales department. But we don't know that the data set is almost, let's say, 3 million rows. It's so difficult to find. So let's go ahead and let's say we are given 101 as the employee ID. So the table array, let me delete it and do it again. The table array is the range, right? Is the range where your data belongs to. Is the range of the table where you want to perform the search from. As simple as that, right? So I want to perform the search. Okay, I'm looking for, and how do you decide the range? Okay, I gave employee ID to the VLOOKUP, right? Right. So I can span and then move to what? And I also want the department. So I'm highlighting my data from A to C, right? So next is what? Sorry, 101. Next is what? Next is the column. The column index means, for example, I want the department for the what? For the employee. And where does this department lies? In which column? It lies in the third column. So this is why I'm passing 3, right? And then false means I want an exact match. That is why I'm passing false. If I pass true, it's going to give me an approximated match, right? Which I don't want, right? For example, if you're looking for values, let's say values 3.5, 3.6, and then maybe you're looking for 4.3. If it doesn't find 4.3, the next value or the value before 4.3 is, let's say, 4.1. So if you write this as true, it's gonna return 4.1. But if you want an exact match, there's no approximation. If it doesn't find the exact value that you're looking for, it's gonna return an error. It's gonna return an NA, right? So that is why we're passing false. So let's go ahead and press enter. So we see sales. And if you take a look at data set, Abiodun belongs to the what? To the sales department. Beautiful. So let's take a look at the outline. If you go to the third challenge is determine if an employee exists in the database. Beautiful. So let's say your manager wants you to find if an employee actually belongs to a department. Let's say maybe for security reasons, maybe your manager found someone suspicious and he wants to be sure that that employee is part of your organization or is part of you, right? Or maybe an employee is having an issue and you want to see if they exist in the database. So how do you do that? Okay, let's say you don't know the employees. For example, okay, the employee exists, but maybe he lost his ID or you want to know his salary or something like that. And the only data that you have is the employee's name. You don't have any data but the employee's name. How do you achieve that? Right? So it's simple. We can use VLOOKUP again to find if the employee exists in our database. So always begin with an equal sign. We can just go ahead and write equal sign, VLOOKUP. So the lookup value is, I want to check if if let's say Tolu, you see I'm passing it as a string. Computers do not understand. For example, if I go ahead and write Tolu, the programmers know this. Computer does not understand Tolu unless you pass it in a quote. For example, a single quote or a double quote as a string, right? So I'm going to pass, but if it's a number, you can just go ahead and pass the number, right? But if it's a string, if it's a text, you have to put it in double quotes. So let's say we're looking for Tolu. Okay, VLOOKUP, the lookup value is what? Tolu, Akinyemi, right? And what is the table range? So it's simple. I know that Tolu is a name, is an employee name. So the lookup array, it's gonna be the what? The name column, which is what? Which is B, right? So just click on B, or you can just manually go ahead and say from B to B. As simple as that. If I'm doing the analysis, I don't have to just go and click on B. Professionally, you can just say BB. You're done. You know that it's BB, right? As quickly as that. But if you're a beginner, just come and click on B, right? But if as an intermediate, you don't have to just go and select B, just B column B, right? B column B. So from B to B, right? Then comma, the lookup index, right? So I've highlighted my range. So what is the column index in the range that I selected? The column index is obviously 1. Why? Because we did not highlight the entire table. For example, if I highlighted from A to B to C, I know that my table has 3 columns, right? But now I just highlighted 1. I just gave it 1 column, right? So it makes sense to just say 1. Why? Because I just highlighted a single column. So 1, that's the index column. So on the lookup value, I want it to be exact. So I'm just gonna pass 0. If I go ahead and press enter, I get the name. So if you get the name, that means the employee exists, right? If you don't get the name, that means the employee does not exist. For example, let me just go ahead and edit the data. For example, I can just go and say something like, let me just go ahead and pass my name, Mohammed Kaka. If I press enter, I get what? I get an NA, which means I do not exist in that database. So as simple as that. And secondly, I can use the employee's ID as well. If I like, I can use the employee's department and then maybe find the employee's name. You just mess around with VLOOKUP until you get the hang of it, right? So, and for example, let's say, let me do Control Z. Let me pass, for example, okay, let me do a little bit of advanced stuff here. Let me check for Kunle Alabi and press enter. I get Kunle Alabi. Okay, let's say you don't want Kunle Alabi. You want something like, you want something like the employee exists or the employee does not exist. So how do you achieve that? You can actually achieve that using some combinations of formulas. Let me just go ahead and delete this. For example, we've covered if statements in our previous class, right? If. And there's this function in Excel, I believe is, is NA, it's NA. You've seen that if the name does not exist, I get NA, right? That means the data does not exist. So we can use the is NA. What it does is actually checks. It actually checks whether a value is NA and then returns true, or if it is not NA, it returns false. So we can use that to create a custom message. For example, I can just go ahead and say if, right? Then let me close the if, and let me come back to the logical. So for example, it's NA, open bracket. So let me pass the value that I want to check. I want to use the VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP, what do I want to look up? I want to look up Dio Ogunle. This is the name that I want to look up, right? So, comma, the table array, it's B to B. I've told you earlier, you don't have to like go ahead and highlight. You know that it's from B down to B. That's the range. comma, the column index is 1 because I just highlighted one table array. So there's no any column apart from 1, the table, the column itself. And comma, I want an exact match, then I pass 0, right? So I go ahead and close this. So after closing this, so I'm still inside the if statement, right? So what do I want to do is I will write my comma. So if this evaluates to true, if it is an any, right? It's gonna show any. It's gonna show true if the value does not exist. For this is any, right? So if this function returns true, I'm just gonna go ahead and say something like employee does not exist, right? And then comma, if it evaluates the false, that means if the any returns false, if the employee exists, then I'm just gonna go ahead and say something like employee exists, right? So I'm then gonna go ahead and so you see, employee exists. Why? Because it's obvious. Dayo Ogunleye is here. Where is Dayo Ogunleye? Yeah, you can see Dayo Ogunleye exists. So we get employee exists, right? So let's say, let me put my name so that we find that the function is working well. Mohammed Kaka, employee does not exist. So this is a little bit advanced. This is how I do my things, but in your case, you can just use the VLOOKUP. If you get the employee name, you know that the employee exists. And if you don't get the employee name, then that means the employee does not exist in the database. But if you want to be advanced like me, then you can go ahead and use this if statement, and then the is any, which checks if the number is any, returns true. If the number is not any, returns false. Then based on that, you write employee exists or employee does not exist. For example, in our students data set, we use this to write some remarks, right? If it's above some certain value, we put excellent, and if it's below some certain values, we put good or net improvement. So that is out of the way. So we've solved another problem. The next challenge we have in our business problem is, sorry, this is actually not the business problem. Compare VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP. Okay, in my Excel, I don't believe, you see, in my Excel, there's no XLOOKUP. My Excel is 2019 and there's no XLOOKUP. So if your Excel has XLOOKUP, please, this is gonna be a challenge for you, but don't worry, I'm gonna be dropping a link after this class. You can go ahead and read. It's DataCamp. It's where I got my first data analyst certificate, like 7 years ago. So it's a very reputable organization, DataCamp. They have this blog post, this article about XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, and HLOOKUP. So it's a very wonderful resource I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Then you can go ahead and read how to use VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and what's the difference between a VLOOKUP and an XLOOKUP. So let's go back to the challenge. The next challenge is use calculated column to determine the annual salary of an employee. This is actually very simple. This is literally very, very simple. Determine the annual salary. Just come to these columns and then add annual salary. How do you determine an annual salary? You already have the salary, just multiply it by 12. Equal sign, then the salary, multiply that by 12. Press enter. And then you're done. That's one of the most simplest data analysis tasks I've ever seen in my life. Just calculate the annual salary. We have already, though getting the salary was a little bit a learning curve, but after getting the salaries, calculating the annual salary, it's simple, right? So now we are done with the first part of the analysis. We're done with the first business problem. We've used VLOOKUPs like 5 times, and I believe by now you guys are familiar with the function. It's so powerful. It's very handy, right? So the next is HLOOKUP. So HLOOKUP is an inverse of VLOOKUP. For example, in VLOOKUP, what we do is it's vertical lookup. So if your data is organized vertically, then definitely you're going to be using VLOOKUP, right? But HLOOKUP, if your data is going sideways like this, let's say you have some columns, then maybe you have some row indicators, and then maybe you have some values within them, just like, for example, like in a pivot table, then you're going to be using HLOOKUP. So these are data is organized vertically, so we cannot use VLOOKUP for that. So in order for us to practice HLOOKUP, what do? We have another data set. So let me just go ahead and click on this blank workbook. So I'm going to go to data. I'm going to select new query. You can, for some Excel, you can just see get data from CSV or something like that. Just find your way around this. You can see get data from file, or directly you can see CSV or something like that. I don't know the version of Excel you're using, so just go ahead and find that. So we can click from CSV, and then I'm going to be selecting, let me look at the outline. It says we have sales trend analysis. Yeah. So sales employee, where is it there? Yeah, quarterly sales. Let's import that. Beautiful. So we can see that we have a quarterly sales report from this table, and we want to perform some analysis, right? Some little analysis. So what do? We just go ahead and click on load. This is going to load the data into our Excel. Please do not go and open the CSV file directly. This is the best way to do it. Just go ahead and get data, because if you get used to this, it's going to be the same thing in Power BI. Power BI is going to be so easy for you. So please learn the conventional way of doing things, right? Just go ahead, open your blank workbook, import your data, as simple as that, right? So as you can see, we have these 3 workbooks. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this. So you see, it imported my data as a table, which is amazing. I don't have to go and just Control-T, format the data, and do whatever. No, it has already done that for me. So let's go and check the business problem. What are we having? It says, find the sales for a specific quarter using what? Using HLOOKUP. And I've told you guys that HLOOKUP means horizontal lookup, right? And it's almost identical to VLOOKUP. So find sales for a specific quarter using HLOOKUP. So since they did not specify the quarter that we're going to be looking at, so I'm just going to go ahead and choose quarter 1. So, but before you perform any calculations, familiarize yourself with your data, right? If you take a look at your data, you just ask yourself, okay, what are the columns that I have? Okay, I have quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and then I have my sales, I have marketing, I have the IT, the HR, the finance, the operations, and then I have customer support. And as you can see, the data is flowing horizontally like this. So you know you have to use a what? A HLOOKUP. How do you do that? It's actually simple. It's just the same with VLOOKUP. Just come here and put your equal sign. HLOOKUP. The lookup value, okay. The lookup value is going to be quarter 3. Since they did not specify the quarter, I'm just going to be looking for quarter 3, comma, the table array. The table array is going to be, okay, this time, let me just use my keyboard. I don't want to highlight anything because I want to familiarize you guys with the code. I know that my data starts from A1 and then it ends from what? E. Let me inscribe it. My data starts from here, from A1, and then it ended at what? E8, right? Take a look at it, it's E8, right? And it started from A1. So I'm just going to pass that range. I'm just going to say from A1 to what? To E8. And you see, my data automatically got highlighted, comma, row index. Just like VLOOKUP is asking for the column index, but HLOOKUP is flowing horizontally, is asking for what? The row index, the row, right? So the row index, if you take a look at the business question, it says find the sales for a specific quarter. Sales, and if you take a look at it, sales is here, right? Is here. It's on the second row, right? Second row. So the row index is what? The row index is what? Second, which is 2, comma. Do you want an exact match or an approximated match? We want an exact match. So I'm going to pass 0, right? Let me just go ahead and press enter. And then boom, I get my quarterly sales. So the quarterly sales for quarter what? For quarter 4 is 250 sales. We made 250 sales for quarter 4. As simple as that. So that is how you use, even though most of the data that you're going to be working in your life as a data analyst, they're going to be organized vertically. In rare cases, it's only in cases like this that you use HLOOKUP. But most of the time, you're going to be working with XLOOKUP or VLOOKUP, right? But in these cases, you're going to be using HLOOKUP, right? So let's go and check the second challenge. It says, compare quarter 1 sales with quarter 2 to check what? Seasonal trends. So whenever you hear compare, so what they're saying is subtract, right? Quarter 1 sales and quarter 4 sales. So let's go ahead and let's go back to Excel. Let's go back to Excel. So what we're going to be doing here is let me see how I can simplify this, right? How do I simplify this? Okay. Should we use formula? Okay, you can as well use a simple formula. For example, let me get quarter 1 sale. So how do we get quarter 1 sale? We just use this formula to get quarter 1 sale, right? We use HLOOKUP, then quarter 1, then the range, and then the value. So let me create a column for quarter 1, Q1, right? And then let me create another column for quarter what? Quarter 2. So let me use the HLOOKUP formula again, HLOOKUP. What I'm looking for is quarter 1, Q1 as a string, right? So comma, because it's an alphabet, I'm going to be passing it as a string. Then the table array is from A1 to what? To E8, which highlights the entire table for me. The row index for quarter 1 is okay. It says the compare what? Let me take a look at the business problem. It says compare quarter 1 sales. So sales is in the what? Is in the second row, right? Comma, I want an exact match. I put 0. So quarter 1 sales is 200, and it's obvious if you look at it, it's 200, right? So let's get quarter 2 sales. How do we do that? We put our equal sign, HLOOKUP. The lookup value is going to be quarter 2, and the table array is going to be from A1 to E8, and then the row index is going to be 2. We're looking for cells, and then exact match false, which is 0. We press enter. So quarter 2 is 300, and if you take a look at this quarter 2, it's 300, right? So the distance is compare the cells, right? So when we compare, we will just subtract and see the difference, right? We want to see the difference. So quarter 1, let's do something like quarter 1 versus quarter 2. And then let's just say this, which is in H2, is equals to H2 minus what? I2. So minus 100, right? And if you take a look at the difference between quarter 1 and quarter 2, in quarter 1, we made 200 cells, and in quarter 2, we made 300 cells, right? So if you take a look at the difference is 100, right? That's the difference, right? And you can do it inversely. For example, you can come and edit the formula and say from quarter 3, which is Q2, sorry, I2, and then from quarter 4, which is what? Which is H2. then you get a positive value. Whatever the case might be, that's the difference between the first quarter versus the second quarter. So that is how you use HLOOKUP. So, but the third challenge says determine which quarter had the highest revenue. Yeah, you're going to be getting this question as this. You're going to be telling to determine which quarter has the highest revenue. So we're not gonna be using HLOOKUP for this. We know our quarters, so we're just gonna put an equal sign. So we know our quarter started from what? From B. For the cells, it started from B2, right? So we're gonna be using max. Max function checks the value in a range and then returns the highest within the range. So we're just gonna be using max from quarter 1 to quarter 2 for sales, and then we close our bracket. So the quarter that is performing well is what? Quarter 4, which has the highest sales of 400 units. As simple as that. So sometimes you can use a VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, and sometimes it's not suitable. For example, like in this case, it's not suitable for you to use HLOOKUP to find the products, to find the highest quarter, right? You just use max, then from quarter 1 sales to quarter 4 sales, and then it's going to give you the quarter that has the highest number of sales, which is quarter 4. Amazing. So we've covered VLOOKUPs, we've covered HLOOKUPs, right? So let me just take a minute and talk about pivot tables for like 5 minutes. Then we're going to complete the pivot tables in our next class. And let me take a look at what we're going to be covering in our next class. Okay, in our next class, we're going to be covering charts. We're going to be covering bar charts, pie charts, line charts, and then histograms and scatter plots. All right, so we're going to be using the rest of the time to talk about pivot tables, and then we're going to be using maybe the half of the time to create charts. Because charts are very simple, you just go ahead and insert, but we're going to be covering why use a certain chart, when to use a certain chart, right? So we're going to be using half of the time to talk about pivot tables, and then we're going to be using the half of the time to visualize our data. But this is going to be a little bit of challenge for you guys. Let me just go over it. So we have a sales data, right? And the question says, as a business analyst, you want to analyze regional sales performance and track profits over time. Region, we have regions in our data, and then we want to track profits from those regions. For example, we have the north. For example, let's say we have sales data from the north, from the south, southern Nigeria, northern Nigeria, eastern Nigeria, right? From all the 4 regions. And then we want to calculate the total profit in all those regions, right? And then we want to calculate the total sales per product. We also want to calculate the profit, which is just sales minus cost. And then we want to also see the monthly and yearly sale trends. And we want to also see a year-over-year growth, and then the top 3 best-selling products, right? So how do we do that? Let me just quickly show you that this is a pivot table problem. If you just hear the word, we want to see the regional sales, performance, profit trends, monthly and yearly sales, you know that that's a pivot table problem, right? So let's go to a blank sheet and then import our data. Sorry, data, new query from file, from CSV. Cool. So we have sales data. Where's the sales data? Yeah, this is the sales data. So just import your sales data. So nice, we have the sales data here. If you take a look at the columns, we have date, we have region, north, east, southwest, we have products, laptops, tablets, smartphones, and we have sales, and then we have cost, right? So let's go ahead and click on load to load our data. Boom, that was fast. So this loads our data into Excel. So, and it converts it to table. Please always import your data, right? So, so what is a pivot table? For example, if you mistakenly imported your data as a just double click on your data and open it as a CSV, you can just click in the middle of your row or column and then click on Control T, and then it's going to convert your data set to an Excel table, right? So let me just go ahead and rename this sheet to sales data. You might want to use a different workbook for this, but for the purpose of this class, I'm doing everything inside the same workbook, right? For example, this sales data should be in a different Excel workbook because we've done an analysis for the employees and the salaries. Now we're doing analysis for sales data. This should be imported in a new workbook, right? But for the sake of this class, I'm going to be importing it into the same workbook, right? I just created a new sheet and then imported my data. But in your case, please follow the principles and create a new workbook, sales, and then import your data, right? So how do you create a pivot table? It's very simple. Just go to Insert and then Pivot Tables. But before you click on Insert Pivot Tables, there's recommended pivot tables, which is just an Excel AI that goes through your data and then sees if it can be able to recommend some of the pivot tables for you. Sometimes it is right, sometimes it is wrong. For example, if you take a look at this, it has already summed sales by region for us, east, north, southwest, and here are the sales. For example, sum of cost by region. We have count of date by region, right? So, but in our case, we want to learn it from scratch. So we're just going to go ahead and close this. But if you're a professional analyst, sometimes you can sell yourself time. Let's say, for example, I just want to see the sum of sales by region, and I have this, I can just go ahead and click on it and press on OK. It has already done that for me. So, but if you want to do it from scratch, just go ahead and click on Pivot Tables. This is going to open this model for you. So you can just go ahead and choose where you want the pivot table reports to be placed. Is it new worksheet or existing worksheet? I just want to click on new worksheet. This is selected by default, and then I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK. So this is going to open a pivot table for me in a new sheet, right? So if you take a look at this, there are a few things, right? On the left, you can see your pivot table, but without any data, right? And then on the right-hand side, you can see your pivot table fields. Though by default, this is not the view that you see, right? By default, I believe if you come to this setting icon, if you come to this settings icon, right? This is the default view that you see, like this. But this is cluttered. It's a little bit messy. You cannot, you find it so difficult to drag and drop your columns. So just click on this settings icon and then choose the view that is best for you. But for me, and for most people, is field section and area section side by side. So what do we see here? What we see is we have our columns, right? If you take a look at the data, we have the columns, right? Where's the sales data? We have date, we have regions, we have products, we have sales, and then we have cost, right? So we see the same thing in the pivot table. It just organizes our columns here, right? This is what we are having here. And then we have fields, we have filters, we have rows, we have columns, we have what? We have values, right? So whatever you add to these filters is going to be used as a filter to filter your data. Whatever you add to these rows is going to be here. It's going to be in the rows. And then whatever you add to these columns whatever you pass here are going to appear here, right? And then the values, whatever, if you drag and drop, which you're going to be doing in a minute, if you drag and drop the value into these values, it's going to be summed up and it's going to be populated to this area. That's a pivot table for you. You have the rows here, you have the columns. If you drag and drop the data to the column, you have it here. And if you drag and drop the data to the values, here is where you have it. So please know this architecture of a pivot table, right? So the first challenge, it says we want to see cells by a region. So region, think about it. They say region, right? So when you hear the word region, that is what you want to see on your row, right? So click on the region, drag it down to the rows. As simple as that. So we already have the regions here, right? We have the regions here. Nice. So what does the business question say? They say they want to see total sales per region. And I told you guys that if you drag anything and drop it here, it's going to be populated as values. It's going to be summed up. If you like, you can change it to be average. If you like, you can change it to count. But by default, it's going to be summed up, right? And if you hear the word total sales, they mean the sum, right? So let's click on our cells and drag it down to values. And then boom, we already have our total sales by region. So there's some options in a pivot table. For example, if you click on the pivot table, you see and analyze this thing on your ribbon. There's analyze and there's design, right? So if you click on this design, for example, if you take a look at this value, we have grand totals, right? So if you want to take away this grand total, which is what we do by convention, mostly. So you just click on the table and then go to subtotals and then do not show subtotals. Go to grand totals and then you can go and select all 4 rows and columns. You see the grand totals is hidden now, right? And then lastly, you want to go to the design and then click on report layout and then show in a tabular form. This is going to format your pivot table to a table. As simple as that. So now we have what? We have the total sales per region. So pivot tables allows you to perform some analysis in a quick and efficient way. For example, now if I come and click on this arrow, I can filter my data. For example, let's say I want to see the total sales for the note. I can just select note, right? And then click on OK. This is going to give me the total sales for the note, which is 15,350 sales, right? I can go ahead and click on South. Let's say I want to see for South and West. Click on OK. This is going to give me the number of sales for South, North, and West, right? And if I like, I can select all and then see the total sales for all this region. That is the beauty of pivot table. Without writing any formulas, without using any functions or any calculations, I'm able to quickly find insights from my data by just dragging and dropping columns to rows and columns to values, right? That is the power of a pivot table. So for example, the next challenge in our pivot table is they want to see the total sales per product, right? Total sales per what? Product. So since you've already added the sales to the values, just click on product and then add it to the rows. And then you're done. You're done already, right? You're done already. So let me, and let's say by mistake, you close this pivot table here, the field value. And for beginners, it's going to be so weird to find it. Just click on any value, right click, and then click on show. Click on show field list, and then this is going to bring back the pivot table menu for you, right? So if you take a look at this data, we already have our region, East, and then we have products. Total sales by product for laptops, we have 2,500 sales. For monitors, we have 4,800, and for tablets, we have 4,400, you see? And for the Note, we have the same products and there's number of sales. For South, we have the products and the number of sales, right? That is the beauty of people. And you can as well sort. For example, let me click on select all to deselect everything. And let's say I want total sale for monitors, laptops, and keyboards, and click on, sorry, monitors and laptops, as that's the products that I want. It's going to filter that, right? As you can see, I'm just having sales for laptops and monitors. By me looking at this data, I know that we have 4,800 sales for laptop in the East, and then, sorry, for monitors, and then we have 2,500 sales for laptops in the East. Same thing for the North. We don't have sales for monitors. We only have sales for laptop, and it's 5,900 units. And then in the South, we have sales for laptop. We don't have sales for monitors, which is just 2,700 units. So these metrics, they are so powerful, right? They are so powerful. Like in literally 5 minutes, I was able to perform this analysis and then come up with this value. These are major KPIs in business analytics, right? You know the number of sales you've done in the East, and then filtered by products. You know which products is performing well, which product is not, right? You're going to know which product is performing well in what region, right? You see, that's the power of pivot table. Without performing any complex formulas, we are able to perform this analysis using pivot tables in a matter of minutes, right? Now I have a very deep insights to my data. So the next thing is, what do we have next? The next thing we have is profit calculations, which is sales minus cost. We know that profit, those of you that have business background, we know that to calculate profit, you just subtract the sales, subtract cost from the number of sales that you've done, which is very simple. We don't even need a pivot table to do that. We can just go back to our data, sales data, which is this, and then create a new column called what? Profit. Click on enter, and then we click on it. We have sales, put an equal sign. Let me zoom a little bit. We have an equal sign, sales, which is this, minus cost, which is this. Just go ahead and press enter, and you already have the profit. So we know that we've made 300 profit for this. We know that we've made 500 profit for this. As simple as that, right? So I'm just going to let you guys do the rest. I believe by now, okay, let me just go ahead and add slicers. I believe that's one of the difficult one, right? Monthly and yearly sales, that's simple. And let me just go ahead and add slicers to filter data by region, which is very simple, right? So I can just go ahead and click. Let me go back to my Excel pivot table. Where is it? Yeah, this is the pivot table. I told you that by any chance, if you close this pivot table menu, you can just go ahead and show field list, as simple as that. So I want to add slicers. For example, when we get to the advanced data analytics part, we're going to be creating amazing dashboards. So we're going to be using these slicers, right, to dynamically filter our data based on regions, based on products, based on sales, and based on cost, right? So how do you add? I want to add a slicer. What does the business problem say? By a region, right? I want to add a slicer by a region, this region. So I'm just going to come to this region, right click on it, and then add slicer. If I add a slicer, I get these amazing buttons, right? I get these amazing buttons. So if I like, I can edit this slicer. I can just edit the slicer to make it look good a little bit. But don't worry, in our dashboards, we're gonna be creating our own custom slicers. We're gonna be changing the button colors, right? We're gonna be doing a lot, right? We're gonna be doing a lot. For example, if I go ahead and click on East, you see my product is sorted based on East. But let me go ahead and close this. Let me go to data, and then let me clear all the filters, right? You can clear the filters by clicking on anywhere in the pivot table, go to data, and then if there's any filter, you can see that this clear filter icon is visible. So just clear on it, and it's going to cancel all the filters applied to your data set. So if I click on, let's say I want to see the cells for note, so I can just go ahead and click on note. You see, my data gets filtered for node. Let's say I want for south. By the click of a button, I have my data for south. And if you want to select multiple, just hold your control key, and then maybe I want for east and west. And then release your control key, and then you have this data for these two. As simple as that. If you want to clear all the filters, just click on this clear filter, and then your data set is cleared, right? So that is going to be it for today. I'm going to leave you guys to it. I'm going to leave you guys to do the grouping by sales by monthly, and then maybe the top 3 best-selling products, right? And then what again? The year over year. I'm going to be dropping the formula to calculate the year over year gross profit, right? So I'm going to be diving into the chat section to see if you have any question, because I believe it's time. So if you have any question, please pertaining this. If you have any question pertaining this, please just go ahead and ask, please. I have like 5 minutes.
Yeah, if you have a question, please kindly just raise your hand so that we can identify you and then call you over and you can ask your question.
Okay, somebody is asking, when you're doing a VLOOKUP, how do you highlight the table? Okay, somebody is saying that we have to go at a lower pace because he's an absolute beginner. Okay, the reason why we are pushing this pace is, number one, it is this pace I believe is okay because we repeated VLOOKUP like 5 times, we repeated HLOOKUP like 4 times, and then we did pivot tables. Pivot tables are a bit easy, and secondly, these sessions are recorded, so you can go to the recorded session. You can even slow it down to your preference. Watch it 1 million times until you get the concept, right? Yeah. Yeah, somebody is asking that when we are doing the VLOOKUP, how do we highlight the table? That's very simple. Is my Excel workbook visible?
Yeah, very visible.
All right, if my Excel workbook is visible, then let me just go ahead and show him. See, if you're performing the VLOOKUP, for example, let's say I want to check, let's say, what did we do here? Okay, let's say, what was the first challenge that we did? Let me go and see. Let's say we're trying to find, let's say we are trying to find, let's say we are trying to find if an employee exists in our database, right? If an employee exists in our database, how do? We write an equal sign, then our VLOOKUP, right? Lookup value. What value are you trying to look up? We're just searching our table or our data set or database to see if a value exists in a certain column, right? That's VLOOKUP, vertical lookup. So first parameter that this function accepts is the lookup value. What are you trying to look for? In my case, I'm trying to look for an employee with their ID number. I want to see what department does a certain employee belong to, right? So I have the employee ID, but I want to know what department does that employee belong to, right? So let's say, for example, it's 120. That's the employee ID, right? That's the employee ID. So I'm just gonna put 120 and click on comma, right? What is the column index? I'm trying to look for department, right? And if you take a look at this data, sorry, the second is table array, right? The table array. I'm just going to give it a range in my table. I believe that's your question, right? So I'm looking for what? I'm looking for, I pass employee ID, and then I'm looking for the department. So I know that the employee ID is in this column, which is A. So I just bring my mouse to A, column A, and click on it. And then I'm just going to hold down my left mouse button, and then I will drag to column C, because the value I'm looking for is within column A to column C. It's obvious. It's within the employee ID to the departments, because I'm looking for the department of that user, right? What do? I press comma. After I've selected the range, I'm just going to click on comma. So the next parameter that this function is looking for is the column index, right? What column do you want the lookup function to go and look for your data? For example, now I want the department, right? And if you take a look at it, the employee ID exists in, for example, here's the employee ID column 1. In the range that I highlighted, the employee name is in what, column 2, and then the department is in column 3, right? So what I'm going to do is I want the department for this employee. So I'm going to pass what? Column 3, comma. The next parameter that this function accepts is, do I want an approximate match, or do I want an exact match, right? Do I want it to match exactly everything, like even the case sensitivity, everything exactly as my input, as my lookup value, or do I want it to be approximated, right? Nearest to my lookup value. So if you want it to be approximated closer to your lookup value, then you can write through here, or you can put 1. If you want it to be exact match, if you want it to be identical with the value you're looking for, you're just going to pass what? You're going to pass false, or you're going to pass 0. So in my case, I want an exact match because IDs are unique. So I want it to be exact, right? So I'm going to put 0. I'm just going to go ahead and put what? False. After that, I'm just going to go ahead and close my parentheses and click on enter. So this employee that I selected belongs to the IT department. So that is how you do VLOOKUP. If you don't understand, I believe by now you understood. So just go ahead and then repeat the video 1,000,000 times, 1,000 times, and until you get the hang of it. So let me go to the chat section. Someone is asking, Mondays are not the best days for night lectures. You're exhausted. Yeah. The reason why we're having this class is because yesterday I was so sick. I had to go to the hospital for checkup. So that's why we shifted our class for today. Yeah. But next time we're going to be doing, well, as soon as I recover from my sickness, then we're going to continue our classes on Sundays. Yeah.
Yeah, MC, and let me also let me also share something so that it can also help the students. And as well, for those who don't have an updated version of Microsoft, if you don't have up to the 2023 versions or 2019 or 2016, you might be limited to some of the materials. However, you guys can use 365, and the beauty is technology has advanced so much in a way that you can get most of these resources for free. So you can simply just go to your browser, you can type Microsoft 365. You will see there all you need. You don't need to download it, because even if you download, you have to pay for it. So you can just go online, create an account with them, and you log in. It's automatically logging from my site here because I already have an account with them. So once you log in, all you need is to sign in. Once you sign in, you see these 4 arrows, these 4 icons at the top corner of your screen. Kindly go there. When you click on it, you will see the option. You see from the bottom, if it's document, what document you choose this. If it's workbook in terms of Excel, you choose this. If it's PowerPoint presentation or survey, you choose that. And once you click on workbook, it takes you directly into your Excel, and you have all the functions that you can ever imagine, like what our trainer was presenting to us today, like the XLOOKUP. You see, sorry, however, when you did I click equal to? Yeah, like the XLOOKUP, you can see it popping up there. So it has all of those functions that you might not be able to. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because you guys need to be up to date and be versatile, because technology is dynamic. Informations change and advancements on a daily basis. And this also help people whose laptop, who doesn't have stronger versions of laptop or stronger operating systems. You can just do all your works using the Microsoft Online version. And the advantage also working on online versions like this is that whatever you open, like this document I've opened now, if my laptop by mistakenly shut down, maybe because I don't have strong power, automatically it saves the progress of wherever you are. If you're typing a document, it saves it. So I encourage you guys to also adopt this, because it's not just all about the knowledge you're acquiring, but also knowledge related to the course, but also to be able to navigate other resources. This will go a long way to build your capacities. And also take note, for those who say we are fast, we are not really fast. Take note that this training is machine learning and artificial intelligence intended. So that was why we we ensured and encouraged most of you guys to have gone through the theoretical aspect of data analytics and data sciences on the website, because here you're doing more of the application. And take note that if we spend a lot of time on some of these things, you're thinking they are going fast, then you will not really get the basic, because what will make you distinguish yourselves from others out there is the machine learning aspect of this training. And you guys have a lot to do. The sessions are being recorded. If you come back from work and you are too stressed out, you can take a rest, and maybe when you are at your best moment, you can go through the recorded sessions and you can post, rewind, and try to practice till you get it right, and wherever applicable. So all the resources are available for you guys in your WhatsApp forum and in your Telegram forum. So don't think anybody will be left behind. It is only an individual that will choose to stay behind. After each class, you have maybe between 2 or 3 days or 4 days before we get to the next class. So you can take those times to work out any free time you have to catch up. So thank you very much. Just thought I should share that. So you guys should try to check that out. And you guys should not also forget that you should keep reviewing the program to know how far we are going and always be ready before you come for each class. And like I mentioned, please don't, if you download the 365, you have to be paying for it. So if it's a downloaded version you are having, you have to pay for it. So we are already on week 3, and we're already on week 2, class 3. So you can see where we are. We must cover this, because on Wednesday when we come back, we are going into visualization. And you guys should already see that from Sunday we are going to advance. So you need to also do more work to meet up, so that when you also come in, you have questions. And if you see now why I say don't download, if you download the Mac 365, you have to either pay per month at the rate of 1,900. Or if you want 6 persons, you pay at the rate of 8,800. Then you can share with team members or with a community, with your community. But I don't think that is the best method for you to learn. So kindly just use it directly from the browser, and then you can get the best experience from it. So MC, I hand over to you. I just felt I should share that so that those who need that, and then maybe on Wednesday class, you have to do, the part of the XLOOKUP, maybe you just share the differences between the two, so that your students can get the best all around. Yeah. So thank you very much. I hand over back to you.
All right. I'm going to be dropping. Is my screen still visible, please?
Yeah, kindly reshare.
Okay, let me reshare. So if you take a look at is it I believe it's visible by now, right?
Yeah, it's visible.
So please if you go to the last part of today's episode, you're going to see that this is student take-home practice question, right? For example, use VLOOKUP to find an employee's salary, use XLOOKUP to check if an employee exists, use create a pivot table to find total sales by product, find the top selling product using pivot tables, use slices to filter sales data by region, and then calculate year-over-year growth. So the formula for year-over-year growth I'm going to be sharing is just the current year's profit minus the previous year's profit divided by the previous year's profit. So I'm going to be sharing. If you like, just go to Google and then look for calculate. What's the formula for year-over-year growth, right? So you get the formula and then you calculate that, and then find the profit per region using calculated columns, right? And then group sales by month and year for trends analysis. So if you go back to the video, we've already done that. We have already done the pivot table part. So just drag some of the columns to the column part, some of the rows to the values part, and then you're just going to get it. So for the slices, we've already done that. So you just have to redo it. And then for the top selling product, you just have to check which product has the maximum selling number using the pivot table. And then you're good. So please use this. How many? I believe we have 2 days, right? So use these 2 days to practice this. I believe once you
we have
practice
just a day. That's tomorrow, and then we get to Wednesday.
Okay, but before Wednesday, we have the day right before the night.
Yeah.
So they have maybe a day and a half or something like that to practice. They can just go back and front and then familiarize themselves with these functions, so that when we come next, we're just going to solve the classwork problem with you guys, then dive into the data visualization. Yeah, that will be it. So Justice, I'm just going to hand over the class to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have had a very amazing. One of your students' hand is still up. Maybe he has something to ask. That is, Adewumi. Please, you can kindly unmute and then just ask maybe to get from your trainer before we proceed.
All right. Thank you, moderator. I appreciate. So my question goes back to the pivot table that we made earlier. When we were looking at the region, product, and sales aspects, I observed that the product, when it got to the product part, it actually brought it back to a fresh column. We had 3 columns, one for the region, one for product, one for the sales value. But from my end, everything went just to 2 columns. I had the region and the product embedded together, then sales separate. So I've been trying to also replicate the same thing to have 3 columns. One to bear region, one to bear product, and sales separate. But then I was getting only 2. I don't know, maybe there's something I'm not getting right as we're practicing. That's what my question borders on. Thank you.
Please verify if my screen is visible. Hello?
Yeah, MC, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Okay, so if my screen is visible, then as you can see, we have let me go back to the pivot table.
Your screen is visible. Go ahead.
All right. So we have, for example, now, let's say by mistake you close the pivot table menu. So just, I told you that you can just come and click anywhere in the pivot table and then right click and then show field list. This is going to bring back the pivot table. Please do ensure that if you want to have the region and the product in separate rows, just please ensure that your region and products are in the rows part of this pivot table. For example, okay, let me just take it out. Let me take it out. You can as well take this out by just click on it and then drag it outside. This is going to delete it, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and do it again. I'm just going to go and click on the region. I'm just going to take it to the row part. As you can see, this automatically adds my region, right? And then I'm just going to go ahead and click on products, click on it, and drag it to the rows part again. You see, I don't know what maybe you've done this wrong, but in my end, it's showing me the region, the product, and the sum of cells in a different part. But I don't know, maybe see, if you're having issues, you can just click on you can click and then go to design. If you go to design, then click on report layout and then show in a tabular form. Report layout, select show in a tabular form. Click on subtotals, do not show subtotals, right? I believe you've clicked on show in a tabular form, right? This is going to divide your data into region, product, and then cells. Please ensure that you have region and product in the rows, and then you have sum of cells. You have the cells in the what? In the values. I believe this is going to solve your problem for you. So if there's no any question, I think I can just go and rest a bit because I'm very sick.
Yeah, MC, I really want to relieve you at this point. Thank you very much. And I want to say much more that you keep doing better and you have never failed. We appreciate the sacrifices you made. And you should also consider if you feel that you are not strong enough by Wednesday, please also kindly let us know. And I want to appreciate you once more, and your services are of great value, not just to IGTA and the students, but to the entire world. I want to continue to appreciate you for all you do. At least I've known you for over 4 years now, so keep on the good work. I remember around 2020, 2021, when I was actually in Borno State, Maiduguri, to go through the governor's project. Then when you were working with the state governor, I was amazed at the great jobs you did for Nigerian government, especially when you were at BOPLAS, looking at some of the designs you did. I'm happy that today you are contributing more of those quarters for IGTA, and I'm very much humbled that you actually honored the call to be the one to do this for us. So we are proud of you. Please take this time to get some rest, and we hope to see you again on Wednesday if you are strong.
Right.
Yeah, but if you are not strong, please, health is wealth. We can give you enough time to recover before we catch up again. So thank you all. We are proud of the students who made it up. Yeah. So please, you guys should not be challenged. If you feel that you are not comfortable within the time schedule for a class, please, you mustn't force yourself to be present. All sessions are recorded so that you can go over them at your leisure time. You can pause, rewind, all. You are free. No one will restrict you from accessing those materials. So all the best to you all, and good night.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good night to you all, please.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.